this analysis claims that the economy can grow much faster than we've been experiencing. We've been experiencing growth rates around 2%. This analysis, you've done some work on it. Professor Friedman kicked it off. Says the economy under a Sanders administration, which with much more aggressive attention focused on growth and demand, could grow 5% or more for several years, producing many more jobs. Critics say that's complete nonsense. That's fantasy. What are they getting wrong?
I think what they're missing is the extent of the hole that we're in now. We're not talking about 5% growth forever, but we're talking about 5% of the growth starting from a position where the economy is still extremely depressed. Every previous recession in U.S. history, certainly including the Great Depression, has been followed by a bounce back, a period of very strong growth. We haven't had that this time. As a result, our GDP is around 10 to 12% below where it would have been, as everybody did, in fact, predict it would be in 2006. There's really no precedent for that.
But the analysis that's been put forth suggests, or at least critics have said, that it's positing that growth can go on much longer than just getting back to trend growth rates or pre-crisis.
I don't think that's a very important or interesting question. Honestly, nobody knows what the economy is going to look like in 2024 or 40 or 60. Those sort of projections are not very meaningful. What is meaningful is the question about what we can or cannot do now. We're having a debate about a new presidency in the next 8 years, and there's no question that over that time frame, much faster growth is possible with appropriate demand-boosting policies.
Now, part of the analysis, we've talked a lot on this show, and economists talk a lot about what's going on with productivity. Why isn't productivity stronger? And part of the analysis suggests that productivity that you've done is not some independent variable of the economy that we're just going to get more productive, but that it's just a function of more demand and stronger growth. And so if we could push down the pedal on growth, we would see productivity kick into higher gear. Explain this.
Yeah, there's an old literature on this. It's called Verdorn's law that says that there's actually a strong relationship between productivity and output. And historically, in U.S. business cycles, we see it. Labor productivity falls in every recession. It grows more rapidly in every expansion. It's the opposite of what you'd expect. You'd think fewer workers would be more productive, but it's not true. Labor productivity fell a lot during the Great Depression. Most people don't realize this. And as soon as growth resumed in the run-up to World War II, productivity growth accelerated again. It's very clear there's a direct, and it's not really a mystery. When there's more spending, there's more pressure to move people out of low productivity activities and into higher productivity
So it's not
ones.
some mystery. It's just a function of more growth.
That's right.
Another point that's been made and criticisms of this idea is like, yes, Senator Sanders' economic plans would involve a lot more spending. That would be theoretically a boost to GDP. But he also claims that he would not blow out the deficit and that it would be deficit neutral, and so theoretically there would also be high taxes. Does that undermine the idea that taxation, does that undermine the growth?
I don't think so. I mean, we saw the OECD just the other day saying, you know, we should resist this idea that austerity can actually reduce deficits, that the growth damaging effects of austerity can outweigh the direct benefit, and the same thing can potentially go in the other direction. I also think that it's clear that the different types of government activity have different effects on the economy. If you raise direct public spending and you have taxes on the rich, you're going to get a positive stimulus overall. So I don't think that's a damning criticism particularly.
One of the debates that ever since the financial crisis has been about the labor force participation rate. Some people say, yes, there's this structural, it's largely demographic. A lot of these people were going to leave the labor force anyway. You take a look at sort of this gap between what we actually saw in declining labor force participation and what people expected several years ago, going back to 1999. Why don't you think that this decline is Why do you think there's a large cyclical component to the decline in labor force participation?
We can look at this. We can correct for this. It's true. People are getting older. There are fewer working age Americans. Absolutely true. But we can correct for that. We can say, okay, let's take each little age and sex segment and assume we have that same population today with the actual labor force participation we see in each of those groups. And it looks a lot higher than what we actually. It looks. In other words, most of the fall is not explained by change in the composition of the population. It's explained by fewer people working within each age and sex group. Now, it's true, that effect is real, but it's only about a third of the fall that we actually see.